your great work here. That looks pretty awesome. Let's see what we can do with this thing, okay? I think it's a pretty clean looking doctor's office or hospital. Yeah, you can copy my homework. I'm giving you the answers right now, guys. This is the secret to success. Let's fit the screen here. Okay, so here's what I'm going to do. First off, I don't want my vignette to go over your name. So I'm going to try to make sure that that does not happen. Let's make a new image. And I'm going to do you ones, I'm going to do you really good here, and I'm going to make this image a lot better. Here we go. You ready? There we go. It's so much better. No, I'm going to, let's put a mask on this guy, and I'm going to paint the mask black. I'm going to come over here to do a rectangle first. Actually, no, I can't do the rectangle first. I need to do that last. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to come over to my paint bucket. Okay, I've been using my paint bucket so far already. I simply have this black image. I just have this black image over top of your work here. You feel free to change the color of this, afterwards if you want to. Okay, but I'm sticking with the mask. I made the mask with this little guy right here. Coming over to my paint bucket, I want to change this into gradient. So I'm going to go gradient. Okay. And then by default, your stuff is set to linear. So you're going to get stuff like this. Right now, I need to change my colors up. So this is the kind of stuff that you're going to get by default, is this gradient stuff. And that's not really great. Okay. We need something circular. So this is what I'm going to do is I'm going to change this from being linear to being radial. Okay. And now we're going to be able to see that actually I do need this guy to be fully white. Okay, and what I'm going to do is within this mask now, we're going to come over to gradient. I'm going to find like a middle point on my rule of thirds and just like take it to the corner. Sorry, I need to switch my colors back to black again. Middle point to the corner. There we go. That's like 1/3 right there. Let's do it again over here, 2/3. And just like do a really big one in the middle probably too, right? Okay, so this is kind of what we're looking at here. Now, what I said earlier was I definitely don't want this covering up your name. But let's take a look at the difference here, right? Now, I mean, it's kind of like this is what we call a camera effect with vignette. You can do this in Unreal with cameras and stuff. It's a filter. It's a post-processing filter. It's something that happens to your camera. And it just goes over everything. So, I can kind of play with the radiant a little bit here and just kind of slide that radial gradient there. This is pretty much what it looks like, basically. It's just a little bit of that. And I can actually change this to be multiply too. And it'll grab some more colors in there and kind of amplify that a little bit more, okay? Now I'm going to come over to that mask now, and I'm going to do like a little marquee select. And we're just going to come over here like this, and I'm just going to paint bucket this guy in black too. I'm seeing that we're getting some I'm getting some stepping here with this, so I'm just gonna take a nice big brush and just brush it all in. There we go. And deselect, and now it's not overlapping my name. I've just masked that out too. Okay. So there we go. We have a little bit of vignettes, and just this is a fill layer. This is a paint bucket layer. So this is exactly what we have when we work with substance painter stuff, is we have this layer that we can change it up to whatever we want to do. I mean, if I wanted my stuff to be white, I could just do a paint bucket, and now I have brighter corners instead of darker corners. multiply is not really going to help that any. You're probably going to want to do overlay or screen. But take a look, you know, we're going to get more vivid lighting. So now it's just like, you know, I can go from really moody. Here, let me duplicate this. Let's duplicate this layer. One of these guys is going to be white, and one of them is going to be black. Okay, let's try this again. There we go. So we can go from being really dark and sad and like scary looking to being like we're in an out of body experience maybe, or like we're, you know, there's some radiance around us where things are not correct. Okay, so you guys have the opportunity to do these things, and it gives your model a little bit of edge. But really what it does is when we're looking at stuff like this, it kind of takes away some of our peripheral vision, and it kind of focuses us a little bit more on what's happening in the middle. Okay, obviously there's quite a lot that's going on in the middle, and our attention is drawn there naturally. I believe that that's the case, but I would say that it's not really very emphasized. Okay, so I think that something like this is just going to emphasize that a little bit more. Actually, let me do just a multiply. Sorry, I had this guy as overlay for both of those. Something like this, I feel like is definitely setting the mood better. Or you can definitely do white as well. You know, maybe we can do a screen. The screen's gonna kind of be more of like a dream sequence kind of thing, where we're just getting white and it's not amplifying the colors. So you kind of see what I'm saying with this, Zach? This is kind of I hope that you guys agree with this one, where it's just kind of like when we use stuff like vignettes, it produces what's scientifically and psychologically happening here though is, for one, it's saying, okay, well, we have these big, as human beings, well, yeah, it brings more importance to the middle of the scene, absolutely. There's a couple of things that really happen, okay? As human beings, like flat square images are not very appealing to us, because when we see like sharp rigid corners, it's really distracting to us, and it's almost like, that's artificial, it's not believable, it doesn't really feel believable. But when we work with something like a vignette, and you can even come over here to opacity and lower this down and just get like some transitional stuff going on there, you'll start to see that, movies do this all the time, where they use a little bit of vignette, probably not something very noticeable, but they do it in a sense where you start seeing things almost more realistically with your own eyes. And this is kind of what our eyes see a little bit more than what we see with just a square screen. Also, when we look at things like this, what we're doing to the composition is we're making the composition round, okay? And round is actually good for us, because round, our eyes naturally, the movement of our eyes around the scene, we start seeing things. If I start following your tiles, it's going to lead me to a corner, and if I continue doing that, it's going to lead me to a corner, and then my eye is just going to stop and trail off of the page and not want to look at the rest of your scene, okay? But when we do something like this here too, our eye comes over here to the dark, and then it wraps around into the scene, and it creates this movement situation here where our eyes move around the canvas, and we actually take the time to look at things. So our eyes don't naturally trail off the corner of the screen, okay? So vignettes can kind of give us a little bit of an edge on that as well, where we naturally are deterred from going off into the corner here, and we're simply just going to ignore that stuff. Our eyes are going to be like, no, I don't want to go into the dark area. Let's stay over here, and really, it keeps the eye moving around the scene. So some great stuff here, and some great strategies for you guys to take into mind. You can touch things up, guys. You even in that Photoshop file that I gave to you, I have a adjustments layer at the top that I've turned off the visibility of it. But I have an adjustment layer that I believe it's brightness and contrast. It looks like this in that Photoshop file that I gave to you. If you don't know what these are, they're adjustments. This is probably the most powerful thing in Photoshop that I can suggest to you guys is these adjustment layers. If they're not visible to you, you can come over to Window and turn on adjustments. Very, very powerful. I think this is the best thing for you guys. I mean, you guys are not Photoshoppers, but this is a great way to pronounce your asset even more. But we can come over here and do like a brightness contrast with this. You know, maybe I want this thing to be edgier. And now you'll see that I'm upping the contrast on this guy and we're getting edgier and edgier. Or maybe I want this thing to be a little bit softer, okay? Bring the contrast down and now things are not so dramatic anymore. Now things are a little bit calmer, okay? Contrast, it's a really powerful thing, right? Brightness, you know, maybe this thing's too bright. Maybe I want this thing to be a little bit more nighttime. Soften it up a little bit more, and it's a little bit eerier, right? So now it's dark and eerie. Okay. A little bit of bright. Now it's really bright. Now there's an alien in there, right? Okay. So, I mean, look at how we're telling different stories with just what we're doing here in Photoshop, okay? This is something that you guys are going to want to try to do is touch up your stuff, okay? Take a little look at what's going on there and see how you can touch your model up. If you want, I mean, this is a pretty white scene, so this is actually pretty perfect for you, Zachary, because you have a pretty neutral color scheme here with this model. So when it comes to us we could, if we wanted to, we could put a mood on this painting where we can set, I mean, that's what all of you guys' work is. Your renders are paintings, basically. That's what you're making, honestly, okay? So I can come over here and do, you know, we can put like some blues in here maybe. Put like a blue on here. I'm just gonna set this guy to overlay and really lower the opacity of it. And we'll notice now we're getting some more cool lighting. So maybe now we're in like more of an overcast setting where it's been raining a lot, or we want to bring a little bit more blue into the scene. We can do that kind of stuff. Little tiny touches. Sketchfab has filters too that you guys can play around with. You guys can go in the Sketchfab and say, you know, you can do the color overlays, you can do brightness and contrast, and really set a mood. And like the lighting and the shading and lighting and colors and filters that you guys apply to your models, they can be story elements in themselves. You guys can set a mood to your models that really, you know, paint a clear picture that says, yes, you can. This is a nighttime thing. This is supposed to be eerie, or this is supposed to make you feel happy. You can adjust compositions, and you know, if we push something, like for instance your background here for your image, if this guy right here was no, come on, I want to be in this one. Thank you. If we take this guy, holy cow. It really doesn't want me to, let me just do a, ooh. I'm just gonna do a transform here, okay? Or actually, here. I'm gonna try something out. This is gonna look weird, but I'm just trying to prove a point here with composition. This filter is called offset. And what it does is no, let's zero this out. This is a great filter if you guys want to check to see if your maps are tiling. If you do make any maps inside Photoshop, you can actually offset it, and it will tile that information over to the next side. But anyways, here we go. I mean, like, look at this composition now where we have this, you know, we have some things going on over here, and your model is kind of facing off the screen. It's like outside the 0 to 1 space. It's a little awkward, right? This doesn't feel very good. guys can intentionally do these things where you pull your model outside the 0 to 1, or you pull your model outside the rule of thirds space, you point it off the screen, you make it look like it's looking at something else, and people are naturally going to feel uneasy or weird about it. They're going to feel off balance. You know, if we come over here, let me undo my filter, right? Let's undo this. Let's try twisting this guy. Just canting the image even a little bit. I'm just gonna zoom in so we're occupying the whole space here. So check this out. Now our scene is canted. Our camera is canted a little bit, so we feel a little dizzy. We feel like we're off balance now. Okay. These are psychological things that we can do to our viewers to really say, I want you to feel this way when you're looking at my model. Yeah, it's really messing with you, right? People do these things intentionally. If you've never seen, if you guys have ever seen Ridley Scott, I believe that's him, right? The person who did the Shining. You know, a lot of the directors who do like the 1-point perspective, it really is just like, it's creepy how they center the camera and do the 1-point perspective and push the perspective of things, because you know, it'll make you feel uneasy, and they do that on purpose, and that's what they do in horror movies. They do this in some of those out of reality movies, you know, even action movies like Inception and stuff. You know, they twist the environment and the cameras around to make you feel awkward. I mean, you guys have the opportunity to change your perspective on things too if you want. There is a edit transform, which is called perspective, and it will actually like push things in perspective for you. So if you wanted this guy to feel a little bit like this room to feel a little bit longer, do something like that. Now, obviously, once again, just make sure that you probably don't want your title to do that, right? But, you know, that's kind of the effect that it's going to have there, where we can do things like that. It's a little bit, just some small adjustments can make things seem a little bit off, whether it be a good thing or a bad thing. I don't suggest you guys go too crazy with camera perspectives like this. I mean, we do want these things, we do want people to probably feel comfortable with our models and comfortable looking at this stuff. But yeah, I mean, through these methods, I'm now making this scene just a little bit longer, and making the room just a little bit bigger.